Greetings, folks. Welcome to this latest episode of Arcana Unearthed. This is an experiment for me. As you can see, I am experimenting with brand new software to make things look nice and jazzy. So welcome. So it's no news to, well, it might be news to you, but it's no news to anybody that's been keeping a close eye on D&D of late that they are playtesting new exciting material for the next iteration of D&D, or rather the update to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And we started Arcana Unearthed really as a way of looking into that in a little bit more detail as they release new things, but as it turns out, June is a pretty busy month for me personally. It's pretty much everybody's birthday in my household during the month of June, and various other family events going on. So I was kind of caught off guard with just how little time I was going to have to actually produce more episodes of Arcana Unearthed. So much so that we are now officially, as of yesterday, a playtest packet behind. We're still looking at playtest packet number 5, and yesterday they released playtest packet number 6. But for those of you that were watching our main show, which is our Bardic Quest actual play campaign, we are putting that show just on pause for a few weeks as that came to the end of its chapter and that kind of story arc yesterday. So we're putting that on pause for a few weeks just as we work on the next story arc. So that will be coming back at the end of July. So we do have a few weeks to try and catch up. So my plan is, just to update you, my plan is to have Mondays and Wednesdays definitely having an episode of Arcana Unearthed so we can catch up on all of the material, and possibly, where I can fit it in, Fridays too. That's the plan. It may adjust, but for the time being, just keep an eye out on our social media and our YouTube channel, of course, as to updates for that. But today, we are going to be looking at, this is again, play test packet number 5, not number 6, not the newest one. This is the Barbarian class, and then we will play catch up over the coming weeks. So we're going to be looking at the Barbarian class. We will hopefully get chance over the next hour or so just to look at the main core class itself, and then possibly, if we have time, looking at the not the multiclass, the subclass, sorry, which is the Path of the Berserker, which was included in this play test packet. But we are going to go through and we're going to compare it to the 2014 version of the Barbarian class as we go. Now, I must confess, Barbarians are a class that haven't cropped up that frequently in my campaign. So it's one of the classes, along with the Monk, that I am probably least familiar with. So do bear with me. But some of the stuff is already looking a little bit interesting. I've only had a chance to skim through it. But we will start with the notes, the design notes that they've put in to start off this Barbarian class update. So, for the record, for those following along, we are looking at page 15 of playtest packet number 5. I'm pretty sure I've put a link into the description of this episode so that you can download that directly if that link still works, which it should. So, reading verbatim. Here are the main updates in this class, most of which were inspired by the Player's Handbook survey in 2021. First of all, an update to the Rage class feature, which is arguably the main class feature for the Barbarian class. The Rage can now be extended with a bonus action each round. Taking damage doesn't extend it, but forcing someone to make a saving throw does. The focus is now on what you do, not on what's done to you. Also, the playtest Rage can last for 10 minutes rather than 1 minute. Finally, Rage is now stopped by the incapacitated condition. So, some significant changes there. We'll get to the particular wording of it when we do get to it. But some significant changes to Rage. I think they're right in this idea of allowing it to be controlled by the Rager themselves, rather than focusing in on what people do to the Barbarian. I think that makes sense, certainly from a gameplay from a gameplay perspective, because you know, obviously you want to be in control. From a narrative perspective, I'm not sure I enjoy it as much. Because I like the idea of this, the DM kind of fueling this rage. But from a gameplay perspective, particularly if you are on the receiving end of perhaps a more adversarial dungeon master, which does exist and can happen, then perhaps that is, again, from a gameplay perspective, less than optimal. But again, we'll get into the specifics of that as we go. Weapon Mastery, which we did a whole episode of before. The Weapon Mastery new rule set, which is basically adding powers to weapons, which I think is a good move. I think it was the right move to make martial classes more interesting. So Weapon Mastery is a new first level feature, giving you new ways to use weapons. If you watch our Arcana Unearthed number 1, we go into details of that. Primal Knowledge is a second level feature which unlocks non-combat functionality for rage. Very interesting. That's news to me, actually. Again, I've only skim-read this so far, so that will be interesting to see how that plays out. And again, we'll get to the specifics of that. Danger Sense, which was a feature from the original Barbarian class, which gets unlocked at second level, has now been merged with Feral Instinct, which usually came in at level 7. So that'll be interesting to see, again, how that plays out. In fact, Feral Instinct is coming in at 7th level still. So that does mean then that Danger Sense has essentially been moved from 2nd level to 7th level, which is interesting. Again, we'll come to that as we go. This is just the footnotes, I suppose. Indomitable Might has moved from 18th level to 9th level, so they've, you know, balanced the nerfing of Danger Sense by bringing Indomitable Might much earlier, which is interesting. Brutal Critical has moved from 9th level to 11th level, and its extra damage has been increased and now scales with your level. Good. We like this. There's a lot of moving around of features in this class, which is certainly interesting. Persistent Rage has moved from 15th to 13th level. Relentless Rage has moved from 11th level to 15th level. And rather than restoring your 1 hit point, it restores a number of hit points equal to twice your Barbarian level. This change will help prevent the Barbarian from immediately dropping back to 0 hit points. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, for something that was 11th level, that was certainly something that was perhaps a little bit weak for something that high. Rage Resurgence is a new 17th level feature that restores a use of rage whenever you roll initiative. Because of this feature, the Barbarian doesn't gain unlimited uses of rage at 20th level. So they've nerfed the 20th level ability, power. I don't really know what, actually. What is the class feature is the official term. I had a brain fart there. So they've nerfed the 20th level aspect, but I kind of like this better, actually. I don't like unlimited uses as a class feature. I think it's just a little bit OP for my tastes, personally, but your mileage will vary. So I like the fact that they have just simply gave a way of recovering some rage rather than making it an endless supply. Primal Champion has moved from 20th level to 18th level, and its increase was changed from 4 to 2. So they've brought it down a few levels, but also to correspond with that, they've also reduced the breadth of the power as well. And Epic Boon is a new 20th level feature that increases an ability score, raises that score's maximum to 30, and gives an Epic Boon feat, which is a running theme that we will see across all of the classes, and indeed have done in previous playtest packets. However, one thing that I do know from the first video of the playtest packet number 6, which was released yesterday, and I confess I haven't yet watched the video where they kind of do an overview of it. They are moving away from epic boons at 20th level, according to Jeremy Crawford. So this is something they've experimented with this playtest packet, but looks like they might be moving away from going forward. So take that epic boon aspect with a pinch of salt, as this is now slightly out of date. So then we move on to the creating the Barbarian parts. D12 but hit dice, hit points first level are 12 plus your constitution modifier, so that's not changed. Hit points per level after first, 1d12 or 7 plus your constitution modifier, again that's not changed. In terms of proficiencies, we have, well, let's do the armor training, because the armor is no longer a proficiency, it's a separate thing now, but in the 2014 Player's Handbook it was under a proficiency. So armor, light armor, medium armor and shields was in 2014. Light armor, medium armor, shields, so that has remained the same. Weapons, simple weapons and martial weapons remains the same as 2014. Tools, no proficiencies in any tools either. Saving throws, strength and constitution remains the same. And in terms of skills, you get to choose from animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, perception, survival, compared to animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, perception, survival, which looks to me to be also exactly the same. Starting equipment. At first level, you start with the following equipment, or can forgo it and spend 75 gold pieces on equipment of your choice. The starting equipment for the 2014 was Explorer's Pack. For 2014 was either a great axe or any martial weapon, 2 hand axes or any simple weapon, and an Explorer's Pack and 4 javelins. Now they've dramatically reduced the starting equipment for a barbarian. You have an Explorer's Pack and either a great axe or a battle axe, shield and 10 gold pieces. Then 4 hand axes and 15 gold pieces. It's a little less clear the way they've written it out exactly what you're choosing from, but that looks to me to be a reduction. Oh no, it's not actually that much of a reduction. If anything, I think they've increased. They've swapped out the 4 javelins for 4 hand axes. Yeah, I mean it's a slight reduction. I overstated it. It's a slight reduction. So now we come to the actual class features, the meat and potatoes of the class, because we start with Rage, which is the fundamental class feature of the Barbarian class. Rage being that feature which most things sit around. You know, you have things like your persistent rage, your relentless rage, your rage resurgence, particularly in this new version. So here's how it reads now in this playtest packet. You can imbue yourself with a primal power that is called your Rage, a force that grants you extraordinary might and resilience. You can enter it as a bonus action, provided you aren't wearing heavy armor. While active, your Rage has the following effects. Damage resistance. You have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, which remains the same as with the 2014 Rage. Rage damage. When you make an attack with a weapon or an unarmed strike using strength and deal damage to the target, you gain a bonus to the damage that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian, as shown in the Rage damage column of the Barbarian table. The Rage damage, for the record, seems to be at the same progression rate. This is how that bit read in 2014 by comparison. When you make a melee weapon attack using strength, so they've specifically in the new one called out unarmed strike, which wasn't specifically stated, so was up for a little bit of interpretation perhaps in the 2014 one. So they've now explicitly stated, yes, it does work for unarmed attack as well. You gain a bonus to the damage roll that increases you gain levels as a barbarian, shown in the rage damage column. So it's essentially the same, except again they have specifically called out unarmed strike as adding to that damage too. Then there's strength advantage. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, which also remains the same. No concentration or spells. You can't maintain concentration and you can't cast spells, which is... Oh, so that is different. They've nerfed it slightly. In 2014, you could cast spells, but you couldn't... oh, hang on. No, they've reworded it to make it clearer. Forgive me. In 2014, they worded it as, if you are able to cast spells, you can't cast them or concentrate on them while raging. Again, the Barbarian class is one that I am least familiar with, that and the Monk. So this is very new territory for me. But yes, so if you were able to cast spells, you can't cast them or concentrate whilst raging. They've just reworded it to be much more explicit and, frankly, much easier to read, because when you're skim reading it, as I just did before, it was easy to go, okay, yes, they can cast spells, you just can't concentrate on them. But actually this very explicitly just goes, nope, nope, nope. So there is more. The rage lasts until the end of your next turn, and it ends early if you don heavy armor or have the incapacitated condition. If your rage is still active on your next turn, you can extend the rage for another round by doing one or more of the following. If you make an attack roll against an enemy, force an enemy to make a saving throw, or simply take a bonus action to extend your rage. Each time the rage is extended, it lasts until the end of your next turn. You can maintain a rage for up to 10 minutes. You can enter your rage the number of times shown for your barbarian level in the rages column of the barbarian table, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, the progression of the number of rages, just the way I'm looking at it, looks to be maintained, except of course for the unlimited rages that would have been at 20th level with the old version. With this proposed version in this playtest packet, you're looking at unlimited. You're looking at 6 still. So they don't even increase it for 20th level. It maintains at 6 as it was at 19th level. I just want to read by comparison the end of rage from the 2014 Player's Handbook. Your rage lasts for 1 minute, which is longer, which I think they did highlight that at the top. So it lasts for 10 minutes instead of 1 minute in the new version. Previously it lasted for 1, now it lasts for 10. It ends early if you are knocked unconscious, which was interesting. Although pretty sure if you're unconscious now, the incapacitated condition applies. Let me see. Let me flick through. I think that's right. Man. Come on, computer. You're taking a while. Glossary. Unconscious condition. While unconscious, you have the incapacitated and prone conditions, and you drop whatever you're holding. So yeah. So whilst not explicitly stated, it is implied. I kind of think that needs a little bit of clarification and could be written a little bit clearer, because the fact that I had to look that up implies that this new way of them stacking various conditions is perhaps not as clean as perhaps it was previously. If your rage is still... I suppose the idea is, though, that it covers more bases, which I can see why, but it's not as clear and perhaps not as helpful. So each time you're... No, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Oh, it's been a while since I've done one of these. It ends early if you're knocked unconscious, or if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn or taken damage since then. Which, again, that is different because they have laid out the various things that you can do in order to extend it rather than being reliant on something attacking you. So you are now able to control much more clearly how long your rage will last for, which is good, I think. It's a good move. So, you can also end your rage on your turn as a bonus action, was how it was stated before, which, again, I suppose the idea is that you don't have to use a bonus action to end it, which, did they highlight that? You extend it with a bonus action instead of ending it. So they've inversed that, which, again, I think is a good move because you're proactive with your bonus action rather than reactive, which I think also is going to make it easier to track at the table, because if you're not stating, well, I'm using my bonus action to rage, the assumption is that it ends, which I think will be easier to track at the table, in theory, at least, hypothetically. So then we move on to unarmored defense. Previously it said this: while you're not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dex modifier plus your constitution modifier. You can use a shield and still gain this benefit. How it now reads: while you're wearing any armor, your base armor class equals 10 plus your dex and constitution modifiers, and you can use a shield and still gain the benefits. So essentially the same thing, a very slight rewording, but essentially exactly the same. Weapon mastery. Now, again, this is a new feature. This is not feature in the 2014 version of the Barbarian. Your training with weapons allows you to use the mastery property of two kinds of simple or martial melee weapons of your choice, such as great axes and hand axes. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice weapon drills and change the kinds of melee weapons you choose. When you reach certain levels in this class, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons, as shown in the weapon mastery column of the Barbarian table. So these increase, they stay at 2 until 4th level, at which point they turn into 3. Then they continue at 3 up until 10th level, at which point it becomes 4. And then it remains at 4 then until 20th level. Again, we have covered weapon mastery in Arcana Unearthed episode number 1. So do check that out if you are interested in the weapon mastery class feature and don't know what we're talking about. It's very cool. It's something that I'd hoped that they were going to add for this update to 5th edition. And they did. It just makes weapons much more interesting because, to be frank, weapons in 5th edition so far had been pretty bland, not important. All it really did was change your damage dice, and if you really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty in terms of the properties such as finesse, two-handed heavy, etc., it was more limitations on what weapons people can use rather than necessarily, again, these kind of proactive ideas as to utilising weapons in unique special ways. So the fact they've added that is much more interesting. Again, Arcana Unearthed episode number 1 will cover those for you if you've missed that. So, primal knowledge. Now, this is the one that I was most interested in because I am a big fan of the out of combat class properties and class features. It was one of my pet peeves with 4th edition back in the day, was so many of their class abilities were so focused on combat, and there was not much. They had like utility powers, but there was so much of it that wasn't focused on outside of combat that it felt like just a combat game. So I like when they add things that are roleplay focused. So, primal knowledge. You gain proficiency in another skill of your choice from the list of skills available to barbarians at 1st level. Okay, free skill, nice. In addition, while you rage, or while your rage is active, you can channel primal power when you attempt certain tasks. Whenever you make an ability check using one of the following skills, you can make it as a strength check, even if it normally uses a different ability. Acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. When you use this ability, your strength represents primal power coursing through and around you. I'm just going to read those skills again. Acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. Now, this is an interesting one for a number of reasons. When 5th edition came out, they did this weird thing which never really landed right with me, and I'm guessing from the way they've written this, never really landed right with a lot of people, where they basically said, we're going to tell you what skills, what abilities, such as strength, dexterity, constitution, etc., what abilities those skills should be tied to, but feel free at any point to change the ability. So, like this is kind of proposing. Use if you can justify why you would use strength for a stealth check, then by all means do. The fact that they've created this class feature, which gives you permission to do that, implies that they are changing their approach to skills, in that they are prescribing now what abilities should be applied, because there's a class feature now that is an exception to that rule, which I hope makes sense to you in what I'm trying to say. Because all this does, if you follow the current version of skills, is what the 5th edition rules tell you can do anyway. So this would be a pointless class feature, because you could do it anyway. You could just say, well, I've got primal power coursing through my veins, so I'm going to use strength for a stealth check. And if the DM was like, okay, fine, then that could work. What this is doing is it's taking that out of the hands of the DM and saying, no, that's the rules now. Which is an interesting design choice. Again, the switching of abilities doesn't really... the switching of abilities and skills doesn't really work for me. And actually, there was an episode of Bardic Quest in which I tried to use that very mechanic. And for the first time, I don't think I've ever done it before. And I think I said that, actually, as we were filming it. Never done that before. And I tried it, and I got a bit of pushback from... it was Isaac at the time, who was playing Thoric, because he wanted to do a medicine check, which is traditionally, if memory serves, based off of wisdom. But he was kind of looking at something from a very sort of medical perspective, was my thought process. So I went, well, as you're looking at it more scientifically, let's do that with an intelligence check rather than a wisdom check. And he quite rightly said, but I'm better at wisdom. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to punish you. So this kind of, again, takes that out of the hands of the DM, and it also takes it out of the hands of interpretation. So I think that's good, and I think that's a better design choice going forward. So, second level, again, Reckless Attack now. Now, in 2014, as it was stated, this is how it read. Starting at second level, you can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with Fierce Desperation. When you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on melee weapon attack rolls using strength during this turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage until your next turn. Now, this is how it reads in the playtest material. You can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with Fierce Desperation. When you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls using strength during this turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage until the start of your next turn. I think that's pretty much exactly the same. So that's not changed. Good news. Then at third level, you choose your Barbarian subclass. We will probably get into the Barbarian subclass in this playtest packet at another time and another date. But for now, third level Barbarian subclass, which is exactly the same, except they're not referred to it as a primal path. They've just referred to it as a subclass, which I think, again, we're seeing that in the playtest packet. They're just referring to all of them as subclasses, and then the name of the subclass will imply like College of Divinity, for example, or in this case, Path of the Berserker. So my goodness, I don't even know if we'll get through the whole class at this rate. But let's see. So I just want to take a quick moment though, just to give you some updates on a few things. We got some cool stuff going on thanks to the changes happening at YouTube recently with the kind of lower tier of the YouTube partner program. I'm pleased, very pleased to say that we are now part of the YouTube partner program. Woohoo! Great news. It's been something that we've been pushing for and wanting to get involved with for a long time, but hitting that 1,000 subscriber count is a challenge. It is a challenge, no denying. If, by the way, you're not subscribed to our channel and you are watching this video, I would implore you to please subscribe. We're doing these Arcana Unearthed, which is a new show, but also we have now nearly 90 episodes of our actual play show for you to enjoy. So do subscribe and hit that like button as well if you are liking any of our content, never mind just this particular video. But yes, we are now part of the lower tier of the YouTube partner program, now the first level, which means a few things for us. It gives us the opportunity, first of all, to display our merch, which you may see below, possibly. I don't know if it's showing there, actually, just looking at my screen. But our merch shelf on some of our videos will give you direct links to some of our merch, which, to be fair, I'll hold my hands up, we probably don't do enough work plugging. But it's all there for you to see, and you can see some of our lovely t-shirts. We've got character-specific ones with their character logo and the Bardic Quest t-shirt as well, which really I should be wearing today, but I'm instead wearing a... you can't really see it. It's not even one of ours. I don't know why I'm showing it to you. Run D&D. Oh, the camera's moving and following me. But Run D&D rather than Run DMC. But anyway, I wish we'd come up with as cool as cool a logo as that. But also, the other thing that it does for us, which is very, very cool, is, and you should be able to see this either in the chat window or indeed below the video, you can give us super thanks, which is a way of giving us a tip, monetarily a tip, just to help support the show, which really does support the show. I think people underestimate, actually, when you take into account time and software that is used, and everything's subscription based these days. I think it's very easy to underestimate how much it costs to produce a show like ours. So really every little does help. So if you did want to support the show financially in order to help us cover some of the costs to keep this channel up and running, then that's a great way to do so. And also with any live streams like this, and we are planning to do much more in the future, you can also give us a super chat as well, which will flag up. It's the same as giving a tip, but it also flags up a comment in a really snazzy way to really get our attention, and we can you can join in that way through the chat, and we can interact live with you on stream with things like this. So if at any point you are watching one of these live streams and you do have an opinion on any of the things that have come up during the reading of these playtest materials, then by all means drop us a super chat, and we will discuss whatever it is that you wanted to discuss as we're going through. So yes, we are now part of the YouTube partner program. Woohoo! Very, very pleased. Very, very pleased indeed. That was great news coming out of YouTube in the last few weeks. So let's get back to this class before we run out of time, because I do actually have an appointment that I will need to get to in less than half an hour. So let's see if we can crack on. So at 6th level, you will gain a new subclass feature. Again, we will probably cover that next time. We'll see how we get on. 7th level, Feral Instinct. Now, this was the thing that was merged, this danger sense, which came in at 2nd level previously, which said you gain an uncanny sense of when things nearby aren't as they should be, giving you an edge when you dodge away from danger. You have advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects that you can see, such as traps and spells. To gain this benefit, you can't be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated, which is very, very cool. Feral Instinct at 7th level from the 2014 Player's Handbook, that is. Your instincts are so honed you have advantage on initiative rolls. Additionally, if you are surprised at the beginning of combat and aren't incapacitated, you can act normally on your first turn, but only if you enter your rage before doing anything else on that turn. So, there's a lot there, and they've merged Danger Sense with this Feral Instinct. Feral Instinct at 7th level in this playtest material is a lot shorter. And it says this: your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls and dexterity saving throws. So they've really simplified it. They've kept it simple. They've not. There's none of these caveats about things that you can see and things like that, and the surprise rounds and all of that sort of stuff. They've just said you've got advantage on initiative, so the effect of the surprise round is no longer a thing, which is a shame, because I think that's a pretty cool ability. So you're not going to get the benefits of being able to act in a surprise round normally. But they've really, really streamlined it and simplified it. Advantage on initiative rolls and dexterity saving throws, which really, given that that's a universal thing that is going to last forever, I think that's pretty cool. I like that as an idea. It's nice and simple. A good decision, I think. Actually, it makes the flavor wise, that makes a lot of sense narratively as well, and makes the Barbarian even more distinctive, I think, anyway, as a class feature, even in 2014, than the Fighter. So I like it. It's simplified. Keep it simple, stupid, as they say. At 8th level, you gain the ability score improvement feat or another feat of your choice for which you qualify. It's nice and simple. Again, we covered feats recently. There are some other feats which we might go back to if we run out of playtest material, though I don't think we will. We might go back to some of the earlier feats if they don't show up in later playtest materials at another point. 9th level, Indomitable Might, which was at 18th level before. So Indomitable Might before, at 18th level, said if your total for a strength check is less than your strength score, you can use that score in place of the total. Pretty simple, nice and easy. It's the same, actually, here. They've not nerfed it at all. They've just made it more available at earlier levels, which I think is pretty cool. Particularly given that a Barbarian is going to have pretty high strength. That's a pretty powerful thing to have early on. Particularly if you're bold enough to strength check. Yeah, it's not going to apply to attacks. Particularly if you're bold enough to take to push your numbers up to 20 really early on. Particularly if you do like roll for stats, which I like. That could be pretty powerful. I like it. So, 10th level subclass feature. 11th level, Brutal Critical. Now, this was previously at 9th level. So I've swapped this for Indomitable Might. Kind of. What are we looking at? Brutal Critical. Brutal Critical, yeah. So this was how it used to read. Beginning at 9th level, you can roll 1 additional weapon damage die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit with a melee attack. So you get 3 damage dice, essentially, when you hit a critical with brutal critical. I always find critical is a hard word to say. I don't know why. And this also increases to 2 additional dice at 13th level and 3 at 17th. That's a lot of dice when you get to 17th level. That's how it used to work. This is how it works now. When you score a critical hit with a weapon or an unarmed strike, again, they're specifically stating it, using strength, the target takes extra damage equal to your Barbarian level. That damage is the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike. They've really nerfed that. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, look, from a DM's perspective, I think I don't mind a nerf from a DM's perspective. I actually think there are too many elements of 5th edition that make it slightly too easy, such that the DM has to do a lot of work to challenge them. That's not to say that a DM shouldn't do that work and that a DM shouldn't be more imaginative. I think they should be. But for newer DMs that don't know that, I think it can catch them off guard. So I don't mind a nerf from a Dungeon Master's perspective. From a player's perspective, though, that is a significant nerf. So they're going up to... They can do... Starting with that class feature, starts at 11 extra damage versus up to 20 extra damage. Now, if we're looking at, say, a Great Axe, and we hit a critical with a Great Axe, that's going to start at 3d12, which is going to be 36 is if you were to do maximum damage, that'd be 36 damage on those dice. It'd be 5d6 at 17th level. 5d12, sorry, which is up to 60. So they've really, dramatically nerfed that. I don't know if that's just too stingy for my tastes. Again, your mileage may vary, but I think that's a little bit on the stingy side. Again, I don't mind a nerf personally, but I can understand why players might be like, no, I preferred it before. 12th level is a feat. 13th level, Persistent Rage, which did exist in the 2014 version at 15th level instead of 13th level. The 2014 version, the old version, or rather the current version rather than the new proposed one, the 2014 version, beginning at 15th level, your rage is so fierce that it ends early only if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. The new version, your rage is so fierce that it now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to do anything to extend it from round to round. The rage still ends if you have the incapacitated condition or don heavy armor. So basically they have freed up a bonus action for you, essentially, with the new version of Persistent Rage, which I like. I like resource management as a D&D mechanic. I like having to manage the action economy, and I like the idea of you having to expend a bonus action to extend the rage, because it forces you to use your bonus action. Which, there are so many times where, as a DM, it's like, you got a bonus action, do you want to use it? And a lot of players are like, no, got nothing I can use it for. And I find that to be the case actually for Barbarians a fair bit, at least at early levels, in the current 5th edition. So the new shift of rage, I think, makes for some good game design, I think. Then at 14th level you get a subclass feature. Then at 15th level you get Relentless Rage, which was previously 11th level. Relentless Rage at 11th level. This is the old version. Starting at 11th level, your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while you're raging and don't die outright, you make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, you drop to 1 hit point instead. Each time you use this feature after the first, the DC increases by 5. When you finish a short or long rest, the DC resets to 10. So this is what they were talking about wanting to avoid the Relentless Rage, causing Barbarians to just drop very, very quickly after they've used it. So this is how it reads now. At 15th level, your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while your rage is active and don't die outright, you can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, your hit points instead change to a number equal to twice your Barbarian level, which you're going to be a minimum of 15th level, so you're going to be immediately at 30 hit points. Each time you use this feature after the first, the DC increases by 5. When you finish a short rest or long rest, the DC resets to 10. Now, at first blush, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is a little bit powerful. But they've also increased it to 15th level. 30 hit points at 15th level is not. I wouldn't say it's not. I would say it's not like a ridiculous amount of hit points. A good hit against you could probably drop you. So I like this. I like the fact that they've souped up the power to make it more valuable, really, because I think before the Relentless Rage it was probably not powerful enough, certainly for 11th level. So they've increased the power and increased the level that you unlock it at. So I think a good shout. And again, all of these things thematically make a lot of sense. There's not really thematically, and I'm sure I'll say this again with my closing thoughts in a minute, but there's not much here thematically that's really changing the game. There's nothing new here in terms of the feel of the Barbarian. They're just making it more efficient and more easy to play, I think, which is certainly not a bad thing. So 16th level, you unlock a feat. 17th level, Rage Resurgence, which I think is one of the new ones. Rage Resurgence, it is a new feature. When you roll initiative, you regain 1 expended use of your rage. Nice. And again, this is the one that replaces the unlimited uses of your rage when you hit 20th level. And again, I don't like unlimited uses of things, even for 20th level characters, because I like resource management as a game mechanic. That's a running theme for me, and I think if you watch Bardic Quest, and certainly some of those that play with me as part of our Adventurers Guild, would know resource management is a big thing for the way I like to play. So unlimited uses always kind of ruins my fun. Which, by the way, if you are looking for a D&D game and you can't get one because you live in the middle of nowhere or you can't leave the house for whatever reason, we do have our Adventurers Guild, which is pay-to-play D&D games that I run. I'm currently running 2 a week. There'll be more coming soon. As I say, it's pay-to-play. It's powered by startplayinggames.com. Not startplayinggames.com, sorry. Startplaying.games. Definitely would recommend joining in the games. We've got a great group of people, or a couple of groups of people. Currently running Lost Mines of Phandelver and Tyranny of Dragons at the moment, and again, more games will be coming soon. So if you wanted to check that out and wanted to get in on a game because you can't find one for whatever reason, bardicquest.com/play will give you all of the information that you need for that, and you will be able to see what games we're currently running. So bardicquest.com/play if you would like to be at my table, which you would of course be more than welcome to join. So 18th level, Primal Champion, which was previously the 20th level feature. This is how it worked previously. At 20th level, you embody the power of the wilds. Your strength and constitution scores increase by 4. Your maximum for those scores is now 24. Primal Champion now reads thus. You embody primal power. Your strength and constitution scores increase by 2. And the maximum is now 22. So, essentially the same. It works mostly the same way. It's just been nerfed a bit from a numerical standpoint, which, from my perspective, is perfectly fine in this version, because at 20th level you get an epic boon, which dramatically improves, or can dramatically improve some of those things. Anyway, particularly the maximum. So you'd only be with a maximum of 22 up and for another 2 levels. So I like it. I don't know how other people feel. Again, I'm talking from a dungeon master's perspective, more so than a player. 19th level, you gain a feat, and 20th level, epic boon. You gain the following benefits: choose your strength or constitution score. That score is increased by 2, and maximum is now 30. And you gain the epic boon of irresistible offense, or another epic boon of your choice. Now, the epic boon of irresistible offense was something that we covered last time. Just to recap what that was.
Increase your strength or dex score by 1 to a maximum of 30. You get to overcome defenses. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage you deal always ignores resistance. And overwhelming strike. When you roll a 20 on a d20 for an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to the ability score increased by this feat. The extra damage type is the same attack. So not only would you be getting all of your extra dice for the critical hit, but you would also from the brutal, no, not the brutal critical, where's it gone? Oh no, it is, yes, from the brutal critical. So you're not getting the extra dice anymore, forgive me, that was the old version. This is the nerfed version where it's based on your barbarian level, so you're going to get that plus the epic boon. I kind of understand now why they reduced the brutal critical with the epic boon of irresistible offense being in play. Still, it's a bit stingy, but I understand why it's there. So we're not going to have time to cover the barbarian subclass Path of the Berserker, so we will touch on that next time, which will be, or should be, if all goes to plan, Monday. It's going to be about the same time, maybe 3 o'clock. Yeah, maybe 3 o'clock. I will get it all scheduled, so you'll get your notifications. But it will be Monday afternoon UK time. We'll look at the Barbarian subclass and possibly take a look at the fighter if we have time as well. But I want to get through all of these. As I say, we have a lot to catch up on now that the 6th playtest packet is out, so I do want to power through. Final thoughts on this version of the Barbarian. They've nerfed it quite a bit in certain aspects, which, again, from a Dungeon Master's perspective, I don't mind too much. It works for me. I like the additional things that they've done with Rage. I like the primal knowledge idea. I think that's interesting that they are creating class features that put those sorts of things in place where you can swap out the skills, the abilities that skills are tied to. I think that's a good thing, because that rule never really landed for me, and I don't think it landed at a lot of other tables about being able to switch it up willy-nilly as a core rule. So the fact that there are class features that now kind of force the hand of the Dungeon Master to accept them, and indeed open up those options to players and justify why, I think that's a good game design. I think it's removing the legwork from the table and just putting it into the bare bones of the rules, which I really like. And I wasn't sure how I felt, actually, when I was reading the design notes about being able to extend the rage with the bonus action. I wasn't sure how I felt, if I'm perfectly honest, because I, as a Dungeon Master 5th edition, sometimes I think players have too many options, and that the job for the Dungeon Master is sometimes made harder with some of the abilities that player characters have. So I like the fact that I actually, just rewind, I actually do, on reading it, do actually quite like what they've done with it, the extending of the rage with the bonus actions, because again it forces the resource management. And even today we were running Tyranny of Dragons this morning, and we had a few times where saying to the barbarians of the group, going, anything you want to do with the bonus action? They're like, no, not really much I can do, other than if I wanted to use 2 weapons. So it gives a function to the bonus action into the core of the barbarian class, and then later also then removes that need for the bonus action, at which point you would think with potentially feats and various other things, and maybe magic items and things like that, your barbarian should have more things to do with their bonus action at that point. So I like it. I think it's a good move. Again, I don't think they're breaking anything, or rather bringing anything new to the table in terms of concepts, other than perhaps the primal knowledge. But again, that's focused so much on strength. I don't think flavor-wise, I don't think it really adds or changes anything in terms of the feel of the class. It's just doubled down on what makes a barbarian a barbarian. So this is perhaps the most barbarianist barbarian that has existed in this edition of Dungeons and Dragons. So that's going to be it for today's live stream. Thanks for watching. Once again, do make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment as well. Let us know how you think, how you feel rather about this proposed changes to the Barbarian. If there's anything you don't like, if there's anything you do like, or if you have any differing opinions to me as well. I'm enjoying doing these Arcana Unearthed. It's really making me get into the nitty-gritty of the Unearthed Arcana, which until really doing this show I didn't really care too much about. So it's enjoyable for me, and hopefully means that you don't have to sit and read through it all. So yes, do like, do subscribe, and I will